Welcome into this week's Degrees of Science. This week we're talking about some amazing research being done to produce hydrogen from rocks. So today we're talking with Dr. Toti Larson from the University of Texas, a researcher in their geology department there. Dr. Larson, so first, before we get to the research you are doing, why is it important to try to produce hydrogen? Why is that so important?
Well, there's a lot of emphasis looking at sort of transitional fuels, transitional energy, kind of moving away from kind of fossil fuels and moving into some new directions. And I think a lot of people are familiar with kind of batteries and electric cars and electric vehicles. Well, the new frontier that we're investigating is actually using hydrogen. And if done correctly, it presents a carbon-free or a carbon-neutral way to fuel the next economy.
So currently, how do we produce most of the hydrogen that we have?
We make it from natural gas. That's the most likely way to do it. Natural gas has a lot of hydrogen within the molecule, or methane does. And so we use methane to produce hydrogen in an industrial process. And with that, we can store hydrogen for, whether it be for agricultural uses, energy uses, or as a feedstock for additional fuels.
But when it's made from natural gas, it's putting off CO2. Is that the big problem that we're running into with it?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so let's talk about y'all's project. So how exactly are you making or getting hydrogen out of iron-rich rocks?
Well, we're using a natural process, and so hydrogen's made from rocks naturally, and we do find accumulations of hydrogen all over the globe. And so that process is called serpentinization. And with serpentinization, you're using iron that's in the rocks and you're oxidizing it. And by doing that, you're reducing water to generate hydrogen. So the real process that we're tracing is trying to make hydrogen from water using these this natural chemistry that's happening already.
So is it certain rocks, or I mean, I'm guessing not all rocks are iron rich. Is there certain areas that you are looking for these rocks?
Yeah. And so any of the rocks or any of the minerals that have iron, and specifically iron 2, it's a special type of iron, or it's a very common type of iron, but it's reduced iron. So any rocks that are rich in iron 2, and so they fall under the category of rocks that we call ultramafic or mafic. And so think of lavas, think of basalts and things like that. Those are types of rocks that have enough iron in them to be considered in our process.
So how much hydrogen can these rocks produce? Is it a small amount per a big group, or can produce a lot of hydrogen?
No, it's a lot. It's a lot depending on how you add it up. There's an incredible amount of iron 2 that's in the Earth's crust that's relatively shallow and accessible using today's technologies. And so if you add up all the iron that's available and that we can utilize, you're talking hundreds of years of hydrogen that we could supply.
So, and this is a way to do it without producing CO2. Is it also a way that you're not going to be messing up any of the environment trying to get to this stuff?
Yeah, that's the goal. The goal obviously is to not have a detrimental effect on the environment. And so the process that we use and we're investigating doesn't generate any CO2 when we produce hydrogen. And so that's really the most exciting part about it for us.
So what kind of natural catalyst are y'all able to use that get this process going?
Yeah, so one that's really common and that we're investigating is nickel. And nickel's found in a lot of these iron-rich rocks. The particular mineral that we're looking at is called olivine. And so any rocks that have olivine with elevated concentrations of nickel are part of what we're initially going to be looking at. And then we're looking at all sorts of sort of engineering aspects where we'd actually inject or co-inject different types of catalysts that might help lower the temperatures that these reactions need to be at to generate hydrogen.
So you're doing this right now in a kind of a laboratory setting. I know y'all got a grant to kind of make this a little bigger. What's the next steps to make this where you can produce more or make it in a bigger scale?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Yeah, so we were recently awarded a grant from one of the branches of the Department of Energy. It's called ARPA-E. And with that grant, it really is a benchtop experiment. And so we're trying to categorize all the iron-rich rocks that are common throughout North America and globally. And then we're going to run these experiments in our laboratory to try to estimate how much hydrogen we can produce. And then we're going to look at different catalyst strategies to try to increase the amount of hydrogen that we can produce. And so then the scale up to that obviously would be taking our lab experiments and then going to some field sites and trying to duplicate what we're doing in the lab in the field.
So, I mean, seem to be moving along well in this. Say you looked at a 5 or a 10-year down the line kind of deal. What would be your ultimate goal with this pushing forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little more aggressive than that. You know, there's already a lot of exploration that's happening looking for natural deposits of hydrogen globally. And there's a lot of activity in that field right now. With our activity, what we're really looking at is to find these areas that might be producing some hydrogen, but essentially trying to coax more hydrogen out of those rocks. And so I'd say in the sort of 2 to 3 year plan, the goal would be to take our technology and then, you know, employ it in the field.
Wow, that's interesting for sure. So if you can produce more hydrogen, what kind of changes would that make to, you know, say automobiles or anything? Is it more lithium batteries you would be replacing or moving away from fossil fuels?
Yeah, it's just, you know, right now, you know, humans use a lot of hydrogen. And so there's already a supply line for hydrogen, and a lot of that hydrogen is being produced from natural gas. And so, you know, the most likely kind of transition there would be replacing hydrogen formed from natural gas with hydrogen formed from these different processes. And then, you know, scaling up to the complete kind of industrial scale, you know, that's an enormous task. There's a lot of infrastructure that has to be put in place, you know, to really scale this up. So, you know, in our research, that's not what we're tackling. But obviously, if we can demonstrate that there are large economical hydrogen deposits, and if we can demonstrate that our process can, you know, actually increase the amount of hydrogen available, then, you know, I think you're going to see the infrastructure kind of going in that direction.
This is a cool one because it kind of takes science and kind of economics and stuff. So you're part of the Bureau of Economic Geology. So other than just this one project, what else does y'all's department try to work on when you talk economic geology?
Yeah, well, the Bureau of Economic Geology, that's, you know, one of the branches of the Jackson School of Geosciences at University of Texas, Austin. At the Bureau, you know, we have a wide array of applied projects that cover energy and environment. And so in my particular role, I run a research consortium. It's called the Mudrock Systems Research Lab. And in that consortium, it's funded by industry. And we actually do a lot of research across the Permian Basin and Eagle Ford and the Haynesville Shale, looking at oil and gas deposits and trying to better understand the science that controls the distribution of oil and gas deposits.
Well, Dr. Larson, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. I thought it was intriguing just reading an article about it, and you even spread more light into it. So really cool science you are doing there at UT, and hopefully it will continue to progress.
Oh, thanks very much.